Shalom, all praises to the Most High, all praises to His name. I've gone over this more than several times, based on the scriptures, particularly our scriptures of the Western scriptures for us. When I say us, I mean the Book of Mormon, Seal Portion, Books of Remembrance, all these books that the Most High allowed to come to us at this time to give us more insight into what the Bible of our brethren from the Southern Kingdom was talking about. And he did it that way and no disrespect to nobody, I'm just going to cross of what it is based on knowledge, based on scripture. He did it that way that the Europeans would not be able to confound the truth. Because we found out that particularly those who are known as the NWO, or represent the NWO, they told history according to the way they want to tell it backwards for their own benefits. But I'm just going to go to some basic, like Wikipedia, just to set up foundations, and then I'm gonna go into who is Esau Edom, the seal. The Book of Remembrance, the Seal Portion, the One World Totarian, and let you decide for yourself to be able to see where did it all start. Did it start in Africa the way even some of our own Israelite people are telling the story? Or did it start in the West, in America? See, our own people are so anti-America because they associate America with Europeans, but Europeans didn't come from America. You might try to think I'm a sellout or something when I defend America. Oh man, what kind of Israelite you defending America? Because it's my home. That's why. I'm from America. I didn't come from Africa. I never came from Africa. Us who they call the Indians over here. Of course, we have some Aboriginal from Africa. That's here. They call themselves Moors. And based on studying, I've always shown you before, the Moors are indigenous, but not to America. They're indigenous to Africa. One World Totarian tells us that Moor is the M-O-O-R is synonymous with Africa. I'm not disrespecting anybody. I'm just bringing you information based on knowledge. So I can't be defending and trying to say promoting Africa because I ain't come from Africa. I'm where, in the words of Crick Tucker, I'm gonna be where I'm at. I'm gonna be where I'm from, and where I'm from is where I'll be at, and that's where I'm be. Right here, in America. So, let's see where I'm gonna start. It's so much wonderful things that I can start at, but let me go here to the One World Totarian. This is page 19. It's a history is a lie agreed upon. The NWO historians tell us, and written by the victors. I'm just going to read a quick section. Absolutely nothing was invented or discovered by scientists or intellectuals of the 19th and 20th century. The high civilization Tartar Aryan extracted electromagnetic energy from the ether through star fort strongholds complexes of temples, domes, towers, minarets, and obelisks that used the copper. The energy was processed and stored in turret coils at the power plant summits, covered with copper and always positioned below towers. When rotating inside coils, magnetic fields create electrical charges in a mercury vortex. Hindu and genetic complexes exhibit this function at the top of their structures in a coil of multiple turns of wire. The magnetic field of the turns adds in the center of the coil, creating a strong field, says Wikipedia. Copper has electrical and thermal conductivity and has been mined since the beginning of human history. Phoenicians mined copper in New World America and Cornwall. Copper ingots used in the Middle East and Europe complex were mined and melted in facilities in the Americas. According to American Indian oral tradition, copper was mined by red-haired, white-skinned marine men who came from across the sea. In mines of Almadian in Spain, Hanacavalicia in Peru, and New Almadian in California provided the mercury. So we see that the NWA made up stories and told it to the people. So my if I have a beef at all, and I don't really have a beef, I just have I don't know if I even trust some Israelites from this standpoint, because with all this information that's out here, but the Most High already said many people will say, I got a Bible, I got enough. So that's why a lot of people just believe that story. But the Most High gave us the Book of Mormon, which is our book for the quote unquote Indians, the house of Joseph, the tribes of Ephraim and half tribe of Manasseh. That's who we are. Particularly the ones that's bringing forth this fullness of the gospel from the books of Mormon and the sealed portion. That's who we are. Because the Most High made sure that it was put in our hands. We didn't have a choice. Many of us threw the books away. But the Most High kept on giving it back to us. And no, you're going to read this. I know I was. To this very day, I'm still kicking myself in the behind, because the latter day, the quote unquote Europeans who brought me the book, man, they gave me a nice one, man. Better than anyone I could ever bought. They gave me one that was, man, I wish I could have kept that. I threw in the trash. I'm still kicking myself. But the Most High still made sure I got the information, so I could bring it out. And when I say I'm not talking about just me. I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm only talking for me right now. Man, that was a nice one. It had so much information in it. Well, wow, if I could just got it back. Well, at least I got it. Praise the Most High. So, and it kind of, and I share everybody's video, but I always get a disclaimer. I say, only information I trust 100% is the one I get. Is that saying I'm being better than somebody else? No, because I trust the process I go through to make sure I bring you the information. That's why I say I trust the information I bring you. I ain't got no biases in it. And like I told you, I'm an American, Israelite American, called by the Most High's name, or Yasharallah, American. But we all say Israel. Let's go, Israelite American. And of course, we know what they called us. I'm doing a lot of research on that. And also the pictures that I've seen of Choctaw, as they call them, Indians. I've seen pictures that resemble people in my family. And I've read information that the Choctaws were Israelites based on they believed in the Torah. They worshiped Yehovah and Yahweh Shai. So when I put it all together, I'm convinced that I am an American Israelite from the tribe of Ephraim, from the house of Joseph, that some people call Choctaw. You can't tell me otherwise. And I'm a proud American. That's who I am. There's no disrespect to nobody else, but I'm trying to tell you, we're the original Americans. Aboriginal, indigenous. And I thought I'll give you this. I've given it to you before, but I'm going to bring you some information again. Hopefully it convinces you. That's why I say I'll be kind of looking at some of the Israelites side-eye, because I know that some don't read the Book of Mormon, the sealed portion, so you got to give them a little leeway because they don't have all the information. But it's there for them. I even share it on some of their websites, and they ignore it. The Books of Remembrance tells us that Joseph was treated like chattel. The Roman Catholic Pope's private attorney said they acknowledged that we had been treated like chattel, which was a crime over 150 years ago, up until this day. So that shows you the parallel between us and Joseph. We're his offspring. And then the portion tells us, the Moroni said, it is evident that we are from the house of Joseph, from the Book of Mormon. So then, I just went to the internet to pull up a few things. And like I told you, I share everybody's videos and all throughout Israel. Some people say, well, you're confusing the people. Well, guess what? Like I always say, because based on the scripture in the sealed portion, or the sealed portion, it said there's a kingdom celestial, there's a kingdom terrestrial, and a kingdom telestial. Everybody not going to the celestial kingdom. So there's at least two to choose from other than that. And another reason I share it is because when I bring out this truth that I'm confident in, that can't be disputed, if people start watching all the videos, they'll come to a conclusion, or they should. Hey, wait a minute, man. This guy's information sound correct based on everybody else's stuff. And that's not an arrogant statement. I'm just trying to tell you, I trust the information I'm giving you based on line upon line, precept on precept, and other complementary information. So the information I'm bringing you, is no way that nobody can say we came from Africa. Once again, I'm not disrespecting Africa because we have Israelites in Africa. But they didn't come from Africa. They came from America. Why do I say that? Because wherever your quote unquote first father, I'm going to put it that way, wherever he came from, that's where you from. I ain't saying where you at. I said where you came from. Adam, and I'm going to prove it to you, came from America. And then Webster even broke it down, even that's going to support the scriptures. It said all mankind, every kind of man came from Adam. But then you divide that and you separate that and you say, he said, but the Israelites come from Abraham and Jacob. So it lets you know that the Israelites came from Adam. And they were called, let me read it for you. The Book of Remembrance of Our Ancient Grandmothers. Chapter 1, verse 99. And it came to pass that as I sat pondering these things, by now we should consider that Yasakad is Adam and Kava is Eve. That's their first names before their names were changed. And it came to pass that as I sat pondering these things, I could see that the children of Yasakad and Kava were the very first indigenous people wherever they spread themselves. And they arrived at their destinations without the skill in understanding their languages. Okay, let me move on. I was just really trying to bring out where they came from. And it came to pass that as I sat pondering these things, I could see that the children of Yasakad and Kava were the very first indigenous people wherever they spread themselves. So if they came from America and they were indigenous to America, he said after that, wherever they spread themselves. So they spread themselves to Africa in different places. And we're going to see who exactly went to Africa. But I ain't going to give it all away at once. Let me go to the east, where everybody want to be from. Everybody say they want to be from Africa. Quote unquote. Every quote unquote Negro say they want to be from Africa. All right, let me go back to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary for the definitions of ham. Since Deborah and Watchman, I'm not coming against them either. I'm just saying they're the one presenting a lot of research. And they always bringing on the out of Africa theory. So let's see. Ham. Once again, I'm not disrespecting nobody from Africa. I'm just trying to tell you, I'm an American Israelite. This is where I come from. Ham. Let me see. Let me find it. Page 213 of Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary. Ham, perhaps hot. The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. So every other dark race besides the quote-unquote American Negroes. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans. That's why the Most High said, aren't you not like the Ethiopians? We like them, we not them. We dark-skinned like them. That's why he said you like them, but you're not them. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Genesis 10, 6 through 20. All right. So let's see what's I just read all those dark races that they say they're in the East, right? Including the Canaanites, we just found out through research through the other video about the white race, who also are under the Canaanite lineage, because somebody grew pale, according to the scriptures. How did Israel become a country? And where is Israel located? I mean, the modern day Israel. Where is the country? Where is it located? We're gonna read a couple of things from the Wikipedia and this online. It said the UN partition promised 56% of British Palestine for the Jewish state. By the end of the war, Israel possessed 77% of everything except the West Bank, an eastern quarter of Jerusalem controlled by Jordan, as well as Gaza Strip controlled by Egypt. So we're talking about people of Ham over in the east, based on that definition. But we got some more information to give you. Holy Land, Wikipedia. The Holy Land is an area roughly between the Mediterranean Sea and the eastern bank of remember that eastern, everything is in the east over there. And the eastern bank of the Jordan River, traditionally synonymous both with the biblical land of Israel and with the region of Palestine. This is from the Slovakia. Slow down. Britannica. Well, I don't know how to pronounce that. Britannica. Britannica. Can't pronounce it today, but I spelled it for you so you know where it's from. Britannica. Online. All right. Let's go somewhere else. I'm gonna read it all. I'm just hitting the because I don't need to read it all because I got the good stuff, as they say. I got the stuff to prove it. So I ain't got to read all of it. The Levant. This article is about the historical geographical region in the Eastern Mediterranean for Latin Catholics in the Ottoman Empire. See, Levantines, Latin Christians for others uses. See, Levantine and Levant, disambiguation, not to be confused with Levante or Levant. The Levant or the Levant is an approximate historical geographical term referring to a large area in the Eastern Mediterranean region of Western Asia. In its northwest sense, which is in use today in archaeology and other cultural contexts, is equivalent to a stretch of land bordering the Mediterranean in the southwestern Asia. The historical region of Syria, Greater Syria, which included present-day Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, and most of Turkey, southwest of the Middle Euphrates. Its overwhelming characteristic is that it represents the land bridge between Africa and Eurasia. In its mid-east, or in its widest historical sense, the Levant include all of the Eastern Mediterranean with its islands. That is, it includes all of the countries along the Eastern Mediterranean shores extended from Greece to Cyrenaica in Eastern Libya. I'm going to read a little bit down. In the 13th and 14th century, the term Levante was used for Italian maritime commerce in the Eastern Mediterranean, including Greece Anatolia, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. Sounds like a lot of Ham, based on the definition. Hamites. Let me continue. The Britannica. From the Britannica. Says summary. Israel, Arabic Israel, officially State of Israel, or Hebrew Medinat Israel, country in the Middle East. We just found out through the story of who was the white race said they're not even Semitic. Located at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea, it is bounded at the north by Lebanon, to the northeast by Syria, to the east and southeast by Jordan, to the southwest by Egypt, and to the west by Mediterranean Sea. Jerusalem is the seat of government and proclaimed capital, although the latter status has not received wide international recognition. Going down a little further. The state of Israel is the only Jewish nation in the modern period. And the region that now falls within its borders has a lengthy and rich history that dates from pre-biblical times. The area was part of the Roman Empire and later the Byzantine Empire before falling under control of the fledgling Islamic Caliphate in the 7th century CE. Although the object of dispute during Crusades, the region then generally known as Palestine remained under the sway of successive Islamic dynasties until the collapse of the Ottoman Empire at the end of World War I, when it was placed under British mandate from the League of Nations. See, and a lot of people might think, man, you're against El Dahir. No, I'm not. Anything I disagree with, I go to scripture and resources to see if I can agree with it or not agree with it based on knowledge. That's what I do. I'm not against nobody. But why did I say that? Because I got this from El Dahir. He pointed out, all you gotta do is look at the oldest tree and you'll see where's the oldest location. Although this is not true, according to the sealed portion, he said man has only been on earth for 7,000 years. But even according to their explanations, they say the oldest tree is found in Utah. It says Pando, 80,000 years old. Species, Quaking Aspen, Populus, tremuloides. Location, Utah, USA. The rest of the trees pale in comparisons. Before I get to the explanation, let me go to the top and let me show you how much older it is than every other tree. It says Safaris Africana. It says the oldest trees in the world. It said discover 11 of the most ancient trees on earth. Number 11, the tree of 100 horses, 2,000 to 4,000 years old. It says species, chestnut, Castanea sativia. Location, Sicily, Italy. Number 10, the senator, 3,500 years old. Species, pond cypress. Saxodium accendiens. Location, Florida, USA. Gran Abuelo, 3,646 years old. Species, Patagonian cypress, Fitzroya crupaceos. Location, Alaric, Costero National Park, Chile. I believe I'm at number 9 now. Sarve Aboroku, 4,005 to 5,000 years old. Species, Mediterranean cypress. Cuprosus sempervirens. Location, Aboka, Iran. Lenagerie, I can't pronounce it. The word is strange. Legerie, 4,000 to 5,000 years old. Species, common yew, Toxus baccata. Location, Conwy, Wales. Number 8, Methuselah, 4,850 years old. Species, Mediterranean cypress, Cupressus sempervirens. Location, California, USA. 7, Promutus, 4,862 to 4,900 years old. Species, Great Basin bristlecone pine, Pinus longeva. Location, Nevada, USA. Number 6, unnamed Great Basin bristlecone pine, 5,071 years old. Species, Great Basin bristlecone pine, Pinus longeva. Location, California, USA. I'm at 6 now. Old Chico Tajigo, 9,550 years old. Species, Norway spruce, Picea albus. Location, Dalarna, Providence, Sweden. Number 5, Jurupa oak, 13,000 years old. Palmer's oak, Carucas palmyra. Location, California, USA. Pando, 80,000 years old. Species, Quaking aspen, Populus. tremuloides. Location, Utah, USA. That's number 1. Look how much older it is than everybody than all the rest. The next closest was in 13,000 years old according to them, and that was found in California, USA. But the oldest one, 80,000 years old according to them. Quaking aspen, Populus tremuloides. Location, Utah, USA. So that's the oldest. All right. So according, if you go by what the LIU say, that shows you right there that Utah, USA, this America is the oldest continent. But we got some more information. We left off, we were talking about the East in Israel, over the place they call Israel over there in the East. We're gonna go to the one. This Who is Esau Edom? This book here by Charles A. Wiseman. I'm gonna read a few pages, several pages. It says the ancient high places, page 32. Much of the world seen today seems to be centered in the region of the Middle East or the area of Palestine. This land is significant from an historical and biblical perspective, since it is the land of the Bible and was the ancient site where Israel once lived. But what is the significance today? There are many references to the ancient high places in the Old Testament. See, I didn't say that everything in this book is accurate, because you already know that they change things. Even when I first started reading from it, I told you that through knowledge, you'll see that the quote unquote European is not the Israelite, although they tried to make it seem that way. I told you to read this book with the current knowledge that you have, that you can decipher between what is true and what is not. When I first started into One World Totalitarian, I already told you that NWO changed history. So every book that was written based on their changes is written from their perspective. Although if you have this type of knowledge that we have now, you can decipher and you can tell the truth even though when they're lying. That's what I told you. So you got to look with a spiritual eye and spiritual ear, and listen with spiritual ears, and use the line upon line, precept on precept prescription by the Most High to gain knowledge. And once you gain knowledge, apply it to everything else you read, and then you can say, well, that's not true. Okay, that's true. That's not true. Okay, that's true. Don't throw the book away though, because it got some valuable information in it. If you read according to that prescription, rather than just reading and thinking you know knowledge. This land is significant from in a historical biblical perspective, since it is the land of the Bible and was the ancient site where Israel once lived. But what is it significance today? There are many references to the ancient high places in the Old Testament. The high places were sites of preeminence in the land, such as centers of worship, places of sacrifice, offerings, and prayer, and sanctuary sites. 1 Samuel 9:12-14, 1 Chronicles 16:39, 1 Kings 3:2-4, Isaiah 16:12, Leviticus 26:30 and 31, Amos 7:9. Jerusalem was a high place, Micah 1:5, as was Gibeon, 1 Chronicles 21-29. These high places in Palestine were thus the center of attention and the most important areas of the land. While these places were the center of attention during biblical times, the events surrounding the Jewish occupation in Palestine has apparently led many to believe they are still relevant today in the days of old, as in the days of old. How does the Jewish occupation of Palestine help in the identification of Esau Edom? Let's reflect upon the biblical maxim that what is popular among men is not representative of the ways of God. Isaiah 55:8. The common or popular doctrine among men is that the Jews are Israelites. The common or popular doctrine among men is that the Jews are Israelites. And as such, they must return to Palestine to fulfill Bible prophecy. This erroneous concept has become known as Zionism. So they say that's erroneous, which is developed into a political movement for the benefit of the Israeli, it says the Jew. The political benefit. Although the term Zionism is derived from the biblical word Zion, we must distinguish between what the Bible says about Zion from the popular concept known as the political Zionism. So he's saying that's not the same thing. See, because the true definition of Zion, according to the books of Remembrance, is Zion is a people, the prophets. The Bible in Zion, page 33. Zion, or Mount Zion, was the highest of several hills on which Jerusalem was built, and thus represents the greatness and majesty of Jerusalem. Zion was originally a Jebusite stronghold which David had captured and was thus called the City of David. 2 Samuel 5 and 7, 1 Chronicles 11 and 5. It was here at Mount Zion that David brought the Ark of God, 2 Samuel 6, 12 through 18. Zion was the seat of David's rule. It was where his house or place was erected and where the tabernacle was first set up. Zion thus became a sacred site and regarded by God as my holy hill of Zion, Psalms 2 and 6, and called it Zion, my holy mountain, Joel 3 and 17. The gates of Zion were loved by God more than all other in Israel, Psalms 87 and 2. And it is the place where God dwells, Psalms 9 and 11, 68 and 16, 132 and 13, Joel 3, 17 and 21. Zion was thus the highest and most sacred of ancient high places. Prophetic Zion. Much is spoken of Zion within the area of prophecy. The term Zion is frequently used as the title for Jerusalem as a whole, in its quality as a holy city. Isaiah 8 and 18, 10 and 24, 30 and 19, Psalms 48 and 2, 11 through 12. In Isaiah 52 and 1, Zion is used in a prophetic sense and is compared to the New Jerusalem of Revelation 21 and 2 and 27 as the beautiful city in which the unclean and ungodly are not allowed to enter. Still that. I'm talking about here among his people, the city he's building, the community. It is in the land of this prophetic Zion of our Jerusalem which God has promised to gather together his people, Israel. I will take you, Israel, one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. Jeremiah 3 and 14. Location of Zion. The Zion or Jerusalem of prophecy was also to be in captivity, Isaiah 52 and 2. It was to be in pain and trouble, and thus needing to be delivered or redeemed from the hands of its enemies, Micah 4, 9 through 10. This Zion is thus not some heavenly abode or spiritual city. It is to be a physical place on earth. An indication of where this gathering of Israel people will be was revealed in a prophetic promise to David where God said, moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel and will plant them that they may dwell in a place of their own and move no more. Note that this planting of Israel is something God will do, not has done. See, it's telling you in this book, the 1948 establishment, that's not the work. That's not by the work of God's hands. That's a political movement by political corporations or corporation. Note that this planting of Israel is something God will do, not has done. To help identify where this place of gathering would be, we need to ask, where was David when these words were spoken of him to him? He was sitting in Mount Zion of Old Jerusalem. Thus, God was not referring to that geographical area as the land where he would plant Israel. God said he was going to plant Israel in another place. It was not going to bring them back to the ancient high places of Palestine. For once they were planted in this high place of in Palestine, for one, they were planted in this new place. They were to move no more. That there would be a new Zion is indicated by the phrase daughter of Zion. Isaiah 1 and 8, Isaiah 62 and 11, Jeremiah 4 and 31, Lamentations 1 and 6, Micah 4 and 8 and 10, and Zephaniah 3 and 14, Zechariah 2, 10 and 9, in verse chapter 9 and verse 9. This was to be the successor of the old Zion, and therefore was not the old city of Jerusalem. Based upon biblical identification of the white European people as being God's true people, see, that's when they twist it up, like they always do. I ain't disrespecting, but that's what they do. I ain't even got to say I'm not even disrespecting, because I'm disrespecting myself when I always got to apologize for telling the Bible, telling the truth. I ain't got to apologize for telling the word of God. It's obvious what they do. Based upon the biblical identification of the white European people as being God's true and literal Israel people, the nation of America has often been recognized as this Zion. See, they still told the truth about where it's at. They just tried to put themselves in it. The nation of America has often been recognized as this Zion of prophecy, or the New Jerusalem. The biblical proofs are overwhelming in favor of America and not Palestine as this Zion where Israel is to be placed or gathered. The following are some of these proofs. 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 10. Let me read 2 Samuel. See what it says. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and I will plant them, and they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of the wickedness neither shall the children of the wickedness afflict them any more, as before time. That's why he's waking us up and letting us know who we are, that we are the aboriginal people of this land, and that's why he made the Roman Catholic Pope private attorney give us all this information of who we are and what has been given back to us by necessity. The Most High told us in another scripture I read the other day, he said he loved necessities. See, this is all according to his word, so he gonna put us where we belong, in our own home, in America. But there also, the Book of Mormon says there we have promised lands. But this is the land of flowing with milk and honey. This is for us. First Chronicles 17 and 9. First Chronicles 17 and 9. Also, I will ordain a place for my people Israel, and I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their place. Shall be moved no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness waste them anymore, as at the beginning. So go to Isaiah 49 and 20. The children which you shall have after you have lost the other shall say again in their ears, the place is too straight for me. Give place to me that I may dwell. The land Israel was to be gathered into this described. This is the page 35. The land Israel was to be gathered into is described as a wilderness or a undeveloped land, but with their arrival, it shall blossom abundantly, as God gives it vineyards or abundance. Isaiah 35, 1 and 2, and Hosea 2, 14 and 15. Palestine was never a wilderness, and it has never blossomed abundantly. God was to make Zion's wilderness like Eden. Keep that in mind. Isaiah 51 and 3. This is exactly what happened in America, which had attained great material blessings and highest living standards. Zion was to be a land from sea to sea. Zechariah 9 and 10 and Psalm 72 and 8. America is bordered by two great seas or oceans. Palestine is not. In the land where God shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, I've come not except for the lost sheep of Israel, and gather together dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. See, that's what the Barwaya always mentions. See, she's so focused on. I'm not even disrespecting her. I'm trying to say I have the right to evaluate what I hear, and what I hear, her and her husband are so, and among many other Israelites, they're so focused on being Judah, they forget that there are other tribes, and then there's two kingdoms separated: the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. In this book of Mormon, and the sealed portion in the books that we have is to bring that kingdom together as one. That's what we're doing now. But some people are still focused on one, and quiet as it kept, they might not even be Judah. And I'm not saying they're Hamites, but I'm saying they might be from another tribe. And more than likely, they're probably from Ephraim. But the fact, let me take that back. The fact that they don't know they from Ephraim, and the fact that they won't accept the new information, that may mean they might be Judah. Because this information was to give to Ephraim to bring the message home. In the land where God shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth, Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, was to be set up as an ensign for Yahweh's people. It says God. Isaiah 11, 1 through 12. In the state of Israeli, even the mention of Jesus Christ is prohibited. In the state of Israeli, even the mention of Jesus Christ is prohibited. Or Yahweh Shai, Messiah, is prohibited. America is the only nation that was ever legally established as a Christian nation. Now we know the difference between what a Christian nation and what an Israelite nation is. The Most High is establishing right now an Israelite nation. The Christian nation is made up of Europeans. They're made up the dumb diverses that is done away with. That's the Christian nation. We're not that. We're Israelites. That's the Most High Yahweh's people. That's according to Scripture. Now, let me go to another scripture since I'm there, so you won't think I'm just talking, to let you know the difference between a Christian and an Israelite, called the elect. Let's see where I'm going with this. The sealed portion in chapter 65 and 2. They just said, I'm just making a correction for them, according to God's word, the Most High's word, Yahweh. The sealed portion in chapter 65 and 2. The difference between a Christian and an Israelite, called the elect, the saint. We've never been Christian. That's a term for European, or they say white Roman Catholics. That's what a Christian is. We cannot be a Christian. Even when you profess in your ignorance you was a Christian, you were not a Christian. Israel. That was just what you was told that you were because you was ignorant. The Most High said, if you're called by my name, say so. The sealed portion, chapter 65 and 2. And the true saints of God, that's the Israelites, the quote unquote Negro, who were his elect, were persecuted and slain by the hands of the Romans and by the consent of those leaders of the Christian faith. Now, wait a minute, how can you be a Christian and an elect at the same time? Because you're the one persecuting the true saints of God, which are the Israelites. So if you're an Israelite getting persecuted by the Christians, how can you be a Christian? You can't be. And the true saints of God, who were his elect, were persecuted and slain by the hands of the Romans and by the consent of those leaders of the Christian faith, who had made alliances with the Romans, that's Japheth's family, the Kittim, and the other governments of the earth. Many of those are Hamites in the east. And some of your own people who are Israelites, who are some Uncle Ruckuses and Aunt Ruckuses. In the land, we're going back to page 35 in who is Esau Edom. In the land where God shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. I'm just going to read it like it says. You know who I'm just going to read the book says. Jesus Christ was to be set up as an ensign for God's people. And there was some brother, he's saying Jesus Christ. I'm just reading what's in the book, man. You know his name is Yahweh Shai, the Messiah. Jesus Christ was to be set up as an ensign for God's people. Isaiah 11, 1 through 12. In the state of Israeli, even the mention of Jesus Christ is prohibited. America is the only nation that was ever legally established as a Christian nation. I just told you that the Europeans, that they're the Christians. We're the American Israelites. Israel's restoration was to take place in a land afar, or very far off, where they would look upon Zion. Isaiah 33, 13 through 20, Jeremiah 30 and 10. Since this was spoken in Palestine, it could not include Palestine. See, nobody never said that Israel, we didn't have Israelites over in Africa. When I read about the indigenous people from America that came from Adam during the second generation, he said once they left, once his people left, his righteous seed left America, he said then they went to wherever they found themselves, including Africa. They didn't start off in Africa, though. Zion was to be bountiful in produce and resources, as indicated by its wheat, oil, flocks, herbs, corn, and a land as watered garden, Jeremiah 31 and 12, and Joel 2, 15 and 19, 23 through 26. This is a good prophetic description of America, while Palestine is rather barren in such resources. The New Jerusalem was to be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. Zechariah 2 and 4. Old Palestine is full of walled cities. The New Jerusalem was to be a very large land as indicated by the need for an angel to measure it, with its length and width being 12,000 furlongs. Zechariah 2, 1 through 2, Revelations 21, 15 through 16. This could hardly be referring to a little Palestine. There are many other earmarks of the Zion of prophecy, or New Jerusalem in the Bible, which indicate it was not to be in the ancient land of Palestine. However, all such signs do fit America. Thus, not all prophecies regarding Zion or Jerusalem are in reference to the old land of Palestine, nor are they referring to a heavenly abode, but like the old Zion and Jerusalem is earthly and physical, only America fits the design of Bible prophecy. God had cast out his people from the old land for their apostasy, never to return. So what then is all of the commotion and fuss for having Jews in Palestine? What is the significance of the Jews occupying the ancient places of the Bible? To answer this, we need to understand what is Zionism and who is behind it and why. Once again, I'm reading this book by Charles A. Wiseman. I didn't write it. I'm just reading it. And I heard somebody say that this same book says that their Holocaust never happened. Written by Charles A. Wiseman. Political Zionism. Zionism has its roots in a Jewish Messianic movement that seeks to establish an independent Jewish state through which their Messiah, the Jewish people as a whole. See, that's why they don't believe in the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, because they say they're the Messiah as a whole. The Jewish people as a whole could rule the world. That's their philosophy. The place that they decided to occupy was Old Palestine. The modern term Zionism first appeared at the end of the 19th century, denoting the movement whose goal was the return of the Jewish people to Erez Israel, Palestine. It was coined by Nathan Barbaum, a Jew, an Israeli, in his journal. It's a long name. Emancipation, April 1st, 1890. Notice at the bottom, Encyclopedia Judacia, volume 16, 1971, page 1032. The term Zionism, as used by Birnbaum, was intended to express a political orientation towards Palestine, as he spoke of a national political Zionist party. This concept was different from the prevailing philanthropic approach. Before this time, it was thought practical that the Israelis, the Jews, being a scattered and integrated people, should have a homeland of their own. And humanitarian pleas were made in this regard. It was at this time that some theologians started supporting the idea as being a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. The actual transition of Zionism from its practical and philanthropic aspect to its political, economic, and military objectives clearly developed with the efforts of the Jewish Zionist leader Theodor Herzl. Herzl argued that the Jews of Western Europe, even after receiving equal rights, had been unable to assimilate and still comprised a nation within a nation. Herzl warned that Jews would be pushed into the arms of the socialist revolution, and the stability of the present order would be severely undermined. It was therefore incumbent upon the states of Europe to assist in establishing a Jewish state and assuring it of international legitimation. Encyclopedia of Jewish History, Masada, publication Israel, 1986, page 120. In response to the Jewish Zionist efforts, there was an offer made by the British government in 1903 for a Jewish self-governing settlement in Uganda, East Africa. The International Jewish Encyclopedia edition, Rabbi Ben Isaacson, Prentice Hall, New Jersey, 1973, page 142. They said there was in response to the Jewish Zionist efforts, there was an offer made by the British government in 1903 for a Jewish self-governing settlement in Uganda, East Africa. See, everything is pointing back to the east for them. The Zionists look back. See, I'm not going to accuse nobody of nothing, but I'm just saying allegedly and apparently, with all this information on people still fighting to go back to Africa, somebody might have got a Rick James, and he used to throw his foot up and kick his head back like all the rock stars do. Got a kickback. That's what it seemed like to me, because they keep on promoting going back to Africa. The Zionists look back at this measure as one which nearly wrecked the Zionist movement. Note at the bottom, IBID. The Zionists look back at this measure as one which nearly wrecked the Zionist movement. In another endeavor to appease the Zionists, the British Colonel Secretary agreed to give the Jews, the Israelis, the British-held Sinai Peninsula, the El Arish Project. But this, too, came to naught. Encyclopedia of Jewish History, page 120, note 5. A plan to make Madagascar a Israeli nation, Jewish nation, also generated no Jewish interest. Clearly, not all Israelis or Jews were in favor of the Zionist plans, as they viewed Herzl as somewhat deranged. They said there's even a division among Jews, Israelis. Leading rabbis feared that Herzl's ideas would provoke a new wave of anti-Semitism. Well, we already read what they said about that. They denounced the Jewish state concept in pamphlets and at conferences. Encyclopedia of Jewish History, page 120, note 5. Likewise, when Napoleon years earlier gave invitations to the Jews, the Israelis, to settle in Jerusalem under his aegis, it aroused no Israeli interest. The Jewish Encyclopedia, Funk and Wagnalls, volume 12, 1905, page 668. Why then were the leaders of the Zionist movement insisted upon a Jewish state in Palestine and nowhere else? If half of Europe would have been offered to these Zionists, they would still rather have the small barren land of Palestine. Why? It is partly because the Jews are incapable of existing on their own. But in Palestine, they could draw Christian support, European support, and some ignorant Israelites in their churches. But in Palestine, they can draw Christian support as God's chosen people, returning to Zion. There would clearly be great political and financial leverage to be had by possessing the ancient high places of the true Israel people. The leaders of Eden did have a plan. As the counterfeit Israel people, they could use their cover to fulfill Edomite goals, not Israelite ones. Zionism is the best advertised of all present Jewish activities and has exerted a greater influence upon world events than the average man realizes. Because of the admixture of the religious sentiment, it will be rather difficult for a certain class of people to scrutinize modern political Zionism. They have been too well propagandized into believing the political Zionism and the return promised by the prophets are the same thing. The International Jew, Dearborn Publications, 1921, Volume 3, page 114. Not at the turn of the century, now at the turn of the century, the time was right for a change. A great and significant scene was about to unfold on center stage. That was to be in line with God's script. And the Zionist Jews were to be characters of that script, acting out the role of Esau, not Jacob. World War I and the Balfour Declaration, page 39. The area of Palestine had been under the control and rule of Turkey or its Ottoman Empire, which had existed since 1299 AD. In 1882, Edmund Rothschild, a Jew, began financing a Jewish society which attempted the immigration of a considerable number of Israeli settlers, Jewish settlers, into Palestine, prompting the Turkish authorities immediately to publish order to forbid further entry. Encyclopedia Judaica, 1971, volume 16, page 1039. On May 17, 1901, Herzl met with the Turkish Sultan regarding Zionist plans and terms for a Jewish national home in Palestine, and an agreement was made. Herzl immediately went to London, where he spoke with much confidence of the success of his mission with the Sultan and asked the Jewish people for, isn't this another? I just had another thought. They're always talking about Morocco, the Moors, talking about they already got to get permission from the Sultans. I don't know, that thought popped in my mind because I remember things when I study. So that just popped in my head. That stuck out to me. Herzl immediately went to London, where he spoke with much confidence of the success of his mission with the Sultan, and asked the Jewish people for 1,500,000 for the purpose of obtaining the charter. But the Jewish people kept silent. The Jewish Encyclopedia, 1905, volume 12, page 676. Although the Jewish population in general had no interest in settling in Palestine, the Zionists persisted. This disinterest stems from the bulk of Jewry being ignorant of their own religion and what the Talmud and the protocols have to say regarding world control. the essence of Zionism. Political Zionism is part of the Jewish religion. See, their religion is their politics. Their religion is not about God; it's about political advancements and agendas. Political Zionism is part of the Jewish religion as revealed by Rabbi Stephen S. Wise in stating, Zionism is Judaism, and Judaism is unthinkable without Zionism. Harper's Encyclopedia of United States History, Harper and Brothers, publisher, 1912, volume 10, Zionists. To establish their political goals, the Zionists needed a political change in the Palestinian territory. And there is nothing that can cause political change more surely than war. The international Zionist bankers and plutocrats thus instigated the Balkan War. Another thought popped out. Captain with Dr. Spot. Is that the Vulcan or Balkan? Might be the Vulcan. Salakia. Thus instigated the Balkan War, 1912 through 13, which brought a revolt against Turkey, weakening it and causing it to lose some of its territory. The Balkan crisis was like a powder keg in the European arena. The Balkan crisis was like a powder keg in the European arena. And its repercussions helped to precipitate World War I on July 28, 1914. It was necessary to bring Turkey in on the side of Germany and the Central Powers because the Zionists knew that an Allied victory was expected to result in major territorial changes in the Ottoman Empire, of which Palestine was part. Encyclopedia of Zionism in Israel, edition, Raphael Pate, McGraw-Hill, New York, 1971, volume 1, page 103. On Turkey's entry into the war, arch-Zionist and Jew Chaim Weizmann commenced a political campaign on behalf of Zionism. During this period, 1915, Weizmann met with, I was looking at the spelling of Weizmann to see if it was the same as the author, but it's not. Charles A. Weizmann has an S. This Weizmann has a Z. On Turkey's entry into the war, arch-Zionist and Jew Chaim Weizmann commenced, see, this was with a Z in it. Chaim Weizmann spelled a Z. Commenced a political campaign on behalf of Zionism. During this period, 1915, Weizmann met with Britain's first Lord of the Admiralty, which is the same thing that the doctrine of the sea once operated under until he gave full disclosure and told you that even the Israelites have power over the sea once again. That's why the Most High said there should be no more sea in Revelations. It's going to be smooth sailing according to the Most High once it's all said and done. Arthur Balfour explains to him the historical roots of Zionism. Balfour was willing to help promote the idea of restoring the Jewish homeland in Palestine if it was liberated from the Turks. Joanne Comer, Who's Who in Jewish History, 1974, page 73. The following year, 1916, several developments that greatly advanced the cause of Zionism took place. There was a strange cabinet crisis in December 1916, after which Lloyd George became prime minister, and Arthur Balfour, foreign minister. Both these men and some of their immediate subordinates were outspoken supporters of Zionist aspirations. Encyclopedia of Zionism in Israel, Volume 1, page 104. With pro-Zionist individuals now controlling British affairs, it was essential that Britain prevailed in the war so Turkey could be conquered and its Ottoman-inspired overthrown. Man, it sounds like an NBA game in here. It sounds like LeBron James wrote through the game. And I'm just throwing a little comedy in there. With pro-Zionist individuals now controlling British affairs, it was essential that Britain prevailed in the war so Turkey could be conquered and its Ottoman Empire overthrown. The international Zionists agreed to bring the United States into the war to help bail out Britain through the assistance of its intimate advisor. Zionist agent Colonel Edward M. House Woodrow Wilson brought the U.S. into the war in April. You know, the U.S. is a corporation. In 1917, the British forces took possession of Palestine from the Turks in 1917. Though the war persisted, the Zionists were pressuring the British to formally issue a declaration that stated Great Britain favored the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. On July 18, 1917, it says Lord Lionel Walter Rothschild submitted a draft declaration to Balfour, expressing to him what Zionists wanted. Later, Balfour addressed the British War Cabinet on the matter, and at that meeting, the declaration was adopted. 2 days later, on November 2nd, 1917, it says, I don't like calling them Lord, dear Lord, Balfour wrote a letter to Lionel Rothschild, enclosing a copy of the declaration and requesting him to communicate it to the Zionist Federation. Encyclopedia of Zionism in Israel, Volume 1, page 106. This became known as the Balfour Declaration. The letter states, Foreign Office, November 2nd, 1917. It's addressed to their Lord Rothschild. I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspiration, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet. It goes on to say His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of the existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. This says facsimile of Balfour Declaration. Page 42. To assure that Palestine would be a Zionist control, to assure that Palestine would be in Zionist control, British forces were ordered to enter and occupy Jerusalem in December 1917. The highest of the ancient high places was now secure for Jews to immigrate into and occupy. With the Balfour Declaration, which assured a Jewish national home in Palestine under Britain as the protecting power, many Jews now for the first time gave their support to the World Zionist Organization. At the conclusion of the war, the British received Palestine as a mandate under the League of Nations, with the understanding that the Jewish people would be encouraged to settle there. But the discontent of the Arabs who desired a self-government and resented the immigration of Jews led to the constant turmoil. Wallace Ferguson, A Survey of European Civilization, 1962, page 861. The Zionist plan was being threatened with the sympathy and support of the Arabs had in Europe. Further, a spirit of nationalism was spread through the Arabian world. Another dramatic scene was about to be acted out on center stage. Another political change was needed. The Edomite Zionist Jews were scheming world plans. Palestine had been occupied and ruled by the Arabs ever since the Muslim forces conquered it in 637 AD. The act of establishing a national home for one group of people in an occupied area such as this was an unprecedented innovation of international law. The Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 2, 1940, page 46. The Zionists faced the burden of convincing the world that Jews should be given the right to occupy Palestine. Since this country already had a population which had been there for centuries, 1,300 years, it cannot be simply handed over to Jewish people. The Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 2, 1940, page 46. The British government made several unsuccessful attempts to quiet Arab feelings of hostility to the Zionist plans. Since the Balfour Declaration guarded the rights of the Arab population, no definite conclusion could be arrived at. Another political change was needed. Such as that only a war can bring. With Franklin D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill willing partners of the Zionists, it took little effort to bring America and Britain into World War II. It took little effort. That's because they throw in the game. That's just popping my head. Consideration. Salakia. Allegedly. The aftermath of the war allowed the Jewish Zionists to establish their international organizations called the United Nations on October 24th, 1945. In 1947, the British gave up their Palestine mandate and placed the Palestine problem in the hands of the Zionist-created, communist-controlled United Nations. The General Assembly approved plans to place Jerusalem under international control and to partition Palestine into separate Arab and Jewish states. With the boundary lines drawn in Palestine according to the Zionist partition plan, a Jewish state in Palestine was established with the backing of the United Nations. On May 14, 1948, the Jewish state proclaimed its independence under its president, Chaim Weizmann, and Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. Both men look like Europeans to me. It says President Harry Truman, that's President Harry Truman receiving a Jewish Torah scroll from Zionist Chaim Weizmann, May 1948. Truman instructed his country's UN delegate to vote in favor of the partition plan in spite of opposition from the U.S. State Department. Page 44. Why then were the Jews the ones destined to occupy the ancient lands of God's people Israel? Because it was so written in God's scripts. They're actually following the role of Edom, who is to gain possession of this area. So he's telling you, although they're telling you that they're Israel, but really their actions is showing they're really Edom. Because it says, the prophecy says that they're the one, Edom was going to take possession of that area now. Thus says Yahweh Shai the highest. Because the enemy Idumea, so even in this book he says the enemy Idumea. See, but they're trying to throw you off of who Idumea is, because if you read it, it's trying to say that let me go back here. It's trying to really say that the people who look like them are Idumea, or they're trying to say these are the Jews of today. And they're trying to say that the quote unquote Europeans are the real Israelites in this book. But the fact of the matter is they all the same people. Because the enemy Idumea has said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours and are in possession. That's in Ezekiel 35. Yeah. Ezekiel 36, 2 and 5. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Shai the highest, surely in the fire of my jealousy, I have spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. Ezekiel 36, 2 through 5. According to this prophecy, there would be a time that the enemy of Israel would say in contempt and ridicule to Israel, we have the ancient high places in our possession. Verses 5 identifies that God is speaking here against all Idumea, which is Edom. There thus would be a time when Edom would possess the ancient lands of Israel. While Edom occupied part of Judea at one time, they never had possession of this land at any time in biblical history. Not even when Herod was ruling. See, Herod was an Edomite. If Palestine was destined to be possessed by Edom, then the Jews must be Edom. And through their Zionist plans are fulfilling prophecy about Edom, not about Israel. The Zionist Jews have hidden their Edomite identity and true role in Palestine by claiming they are Israel returning to Zion. However, the prophecies concerning Zion and New Jerusalem had already been fulfilled in America, even before the word Zionism was coined by the Jews in 1890. The Jews are indeed fulfilling prophecy in Palestine, but it is the role of Esau Edom they are acting out, not that of Jacob Israel. As Edom, the Jews' actions in the entire Zionist movement, whether knowingly or not, was to possess the land God gave up to the heathen. Preachers continue to harp on the subject matter of the Jews in Palestine, despite the fact that God said he would abandon that land. That's why I was trying to tell you, all these preachers got a rock star treatment, a kickback, allegedly, and would do to Jerusalem as I have done to Shiloh. Jeremiah 7:14. Oh yes, that's a 501c3 agreement, allegedly. God forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, Psalms 78 and 60, with the Babylonian captivity of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Temple of Solomon in 586 BC. God has forsaken the old city of Jerusalem and will never build his temple there. I will make this house like Shiloh, and I will make this city, Jerusalem, a curse to all the nations of the earth. Jeremiah 26 and 6. See also verse 9. Jeremiah was nearly put to death for giving this revelation of God against Jerusalem. Christ also said Jerusalem was to be left desolate, Matthew 23, 37 through 39. But God has thus abandoned the ancient high places in old Palestine. When Israel inhabited the land, it was described as a land flowing with milk and honey. Exodus 3 and 8 in verse 17. Leviticus verse 20 and 24. Ancient history identifies this land as being rich and fertile, and as part of the Fertile Crescent. Look at it today. It is a wasteland, barren and desert-like. No significant lifestyle could be maintained on this land as in the days of old. Only by continued infusions of money and aid and technology from the Christian West, the Europeans, and the ignorant Israelites in their churches, are the Jews able to survive. What greater evidence need there be to provide this is not the great and beautiful Zion of prophecy, and that God has abandoned this land and chosen another for his people. Thus, the actions on part of the Jews, such as rebuilding of Solomon's temple or bringing in Jewish immigrants, Israelis, from all parts of the world, have no relevance to Israel or to their role or prophecy in Scripture. Let me go here. Page 81 and 41. Seal portion, chapter 81, verse 41. But in the beginning it was not so. And I have shown unto you that the record of my fathers shall come forth unto Joseph, and he shall translate the part which is unsealed and publish it to the world, so that all may know of the work of the Father which was wrought upon the land of Eden, which is this promised land. The same land that got the oldest tree that you can't even compare to the next tree in age to it, which is this promised land, which shall be called in the latter days the United States of America. Now I'm gonna end it on the sealed portion, chapter 17. And Seth grew. Seth is the reason why we have all of these books, including the Bible. He was the one that started back the worship of Yahweh or Yahweh, after Cain killed their brother Abel. And he started writing down scripture called the Torah and different things, or the scrolls. And Seth grew in righteousness and followed in the footsteps of his father, and did all things. So Seth was an Aboriginal indigenous man. meaning he was a quote unquote Negro here in America. And Seth grew in righteousness and followed in the footsteps of his father, and did all things whatsoever Yahweh Shai commanded him. And Seth had the pure blood of Adam within him. And he had many sons and daughters born, so he was a full-blooded Choctaw, if you want to put it that way. Why do I say that? Because Choctaw was mentioned in the, let's go there. We read it, got to go here too. This book here is called Revealing America's Dark Skin Past, Volume 2, The Columbian Area, Red Silver Fox Thunderbird. Page 9. Page 8 and 9. The misconceptions that permeate American history, especially United States history, are so numerous and abundant that when people are presented with historical facts that deviate from the customary perceptions, they have a tendency to dismiss the information. That's what I'm trying to tell you, the Boer and all them, that's what they're doing. Either by a kickback or either because they're so focused on wanting to be Judah, coming out of Africa. Not accusing nobody, I'm just trying to, that's the way I see it. The misconceptions that permeate American history, especially United States history, are so numerous and abundant that when people are presented with historical facts that deviate from the customary perceptions, they have a tendency to dismiss the information as another conspiracy theory. The old stories from the discovery of the New World to colonization of the United States are filled with so many fallacies that the retelling of these over the centuries has turned these fictions into truths. The misrepresentations of previous historical writings have become today's realities of the past, not realizing that history has become, using the words of Napoleon, a myth that men agree to believe. One of the most prevalent fallacies in North American history is the story surrounding Christopher Columbus and the people he encountered. It is interesting to note that early 20th century histories were stating that Christopher Columbus was trying to prove that the world was round. However, late 19th century historical writings on Columbus, not school textbooks, make no mention of this revelation. They do, however, tell in great detail of the carnage that took place on the islands during Columbus' reign. They also describe in detail of the hospitableness of the indigenous people, the same as Adam's children, who were Aboriginal indigenous, who left America and went to other regions around the globe. They also describe in detail the hospitableness of the indigenous people, the gentle nature of the indigenous people until they had to defend themselves. And that the indigenous people were considered Negroes. So we, through all this information, is concluding to the same thing that this so-called Seth, who gave us all this biblical text, and all of the biblical texts outside of the Bible that agree with the Bible, came from Seth, a quote-unquote Negro, which was Adam's son. He was an Israelite before Jacob got here. But through all this bloodline, which is the, as he said, he had the pure blood of Adam, as do the Aboriginal indigenous Israelites do today. They came from Abraham and Jacob. That's in America, who are Americans. And we are Israelites. That's why I'm confident to tell you I'm an American Israelite. from the tribe of Ephraim. Eventually, in the retelling of this story, as history has a tendency to do, facts were being deleted. The man who changed modern history could not be depicted as a slaver, amongst other things. And most of all, the image of the indigenous people and the words and names used to describe them had to be changed to accommodate European interests and values. Why is all these books telling us the same thing, and the same culprit is always the European? So I ain't lying on the Europeans. I'm just reading to you. As you read this book, it is with great anticipation that you will discover that there is much to learn about the history of people of color. I'll probably, most High say the same. I'll just take a video and read this whole book to you again. Most High say the same. I'm gonna do that. As you read this book, it is with great anticipation that you will discover that there is much to learn about the history of people of color on this landmass of North America. For your consideration, the people of color that comes in all various colors of brown, earth tone people. That's why Joseph had a coat of many colors. We must realize that it was an intention before Columbus left Spain to cross the Atlantic Ocean. That they said they didn't say it was a might be. They said we must realize that it was an intention. It was intentional before Columbus left Spain to cross the Atlantic Ocean to subjugate the indigenous people that would be encountered, the quote unquote Negro. He left there with that intention. That wasn't no mistake. He didn't happen to come up on and find. He came here looking with that same intention. The sealed portion, chapter 17, into our stuff. And Seth grew in righteousness and followed in the footsteps of his father, and did all things whatsoever Yahushua commanded him, and Seth had the pure blood of Adam within him. And he had many sons and daughters born unto him. And he begot a son and called him Enos. And Enos also grew in the righteousness of Yahushua. And Enos begot a son and named him Canaan. And Canaan also followed in the footsteps of his fathers. And Canaan was a very strong man among men, and was pleasant to look upon. He was handsome. And the desire of many women. He was a ladies' man in their eyes. Not in his own eyes, but in the ladies' eyes. He was a ladies' man. Nevertheless, he was faithful to the commandments of God. He became a weirdo. Allegedly. No, women think you handsome, but you start talking about the Bible too much. This is a weirdo. No, but probably back at that time, they was also following the word of God too, though. And Canaan also followed in the footsteps of his fathers, and Canaan was a very strong man among men and was pleasant to look upon. And the desire of many women, nevertheless, he was faithful to the commandments of God and the counsel of his father in all things. And he became one of the most popular leaders among those who were righteous. And Canaan begot a son and named him Mahaliel. And he also followed in the footsteps of his father. And Mahaliel begot Jared. We always talk about the brother of Jared, who was like unto his father in all things. And Jared was ordained in the holy priesthood and served with his fathers in the church of God that existed among them. And it was in the early ministry of Jared that Adam called his children from all parts of the land in America to give them his counsel. If you was to think of it as it's not the church as we know it today, but if it was considered, this was like one of the biggest meetings of the year. Everybody flew in from everywhere. They weren't flying in though. And the people gathered themselves together, even those who belonged to the church of God, and also those who did not belong to the church. And the descendants of Benelli, Satan's son, had gathered themselves on one side, and the sons of Seth were gathered on the other. And Seth sat with his father, Adam, among the people. And Enos and Canaan and Mahalalel and Jared also sat among the people, as Adam had instructed of those who lead the church of God. For behold, Adam would not suffer that the leaders of the people placed themselves above or in front of those whom they served. So they didn't go sit up on no pool pit with their legs crossed, with three-piece suits on, looking at people like they're God. And it was customary among the leaders of the church that they sit with the congregation of those who had gathered to hear their words. The same way Yahushua did when he stood up to teach on the Sabbath day in his time. He didn't go stand in the front on the pulpit. He stayed right there among the congregation. And it was customary among the leaders of the church that they sit with the congregation of those who had gathered to hear their words. And when it was time for them to speak, this leader would rise up from among the people and take his place in front of them and deliver that which he was inspired to teach unto them. And immediately after preaching unto the people, this leader would return once again to his place among the people. And it was this way the people were taught that their leaders were their servants, and that the people should not envy their leaders, neither should they bow down and worship them. This thing been an abomination before God. So all your churches, they have that everybody sit up there looking immaculate in their three-piece or two-piece suits, shiny shoes, all this sitting up there for people to worship. And this is what you are doing, worshiping it. I still be there. I know, because I was one of them that worshiped until the Most High woke me up. Your leaders, your priests, your prophets, all those people are abomination to God, because they know that you're going to automatically worship him, because they sit up in front of you up on high places, and you're going to automatically worship him because you following them. That's just the way it goes. Now I, Moroni, would that you should know that Cain was not present at this meeting in the Adamah Daman. Amen. For he was banished by his father Adam from among the people, after it was made known unto Adam that which he had done to his brother Abel. Now we're going to find out where all these people in the east, where they come from. All of the Canaanites, the Canaanites, the Hamites. Some grew pale, but they all come from where I'm about to tell you, what this word is about to tell you, where they were saying. All these people wasn't there at the meeting in America of Adam's sons. That's why he said, Yahushua said, all of those who are born of Adam, everybody came from Adam, even Cain. But he said he blessed those Israelites the righteous folks, the quote unquote Aboriginal indigenous Negroes. He said, but these other people that got banned for what they did to his brother, they spit him. Although we'll find out that Adam still tried to save him, but they would not listen. So he just banished them. That's why Moses said they spit him. Esau is basically the line of Cain, whether he's black or white. But he grew pale. Cain. And then once he realized what he did, he tried to get forgiveness and repentance, but he found none. And Cain was given the land east of the Garden of Eden. So who in the east? And they're trying to get you to get under the curses of Cain. Go back to Africa. And the Most High is calling the righteous out of Africa to come to America. Who are his children. But you got Israelites over here telling you to go back to Africa. Are you ignorantly telling people to go back to Africa, or did you get a kickback? You know, Rick James had a stroke after kicking his head back so many times. And Cain was given the land east of the Garden of Eden and commanded to stay in that part of the land and not partake of the law of consecration. He even told Cain, no, don't even try to be a part of the law. No, you're going over there. That's why it tells us in the book of Jasher, the Most High only gave the Sabbath day to his children, Israelites. He didn't give it to nobody else. Same thing saying here to Cain. He said, and Cain was given the land east of the Garden of Eden and commanded to stay in that part of the land and not partake of the law of consecration with the rest of the posterity of Adam. We just found out that Ham was the progenitor of all the other dark races except the quote-unquote Negro. But then apparently somebody grew pale because in the beginning, in the books of remembrance, it tells us that both the righteous and the wicked were very brown, dark-skinned people. They were earth tone. But over time, some modern people became pale. And that was Cain. And Cain was given the land east of the Garden of Eden and commanded to stay in that part of the land and not partake of the law of consecration with the rest of the posterity of Adam. That's why the Most High told us not to marry none of them. None of the Canaanites, the Amorites, and all those, because that's where they come from. And Cain was given the land east of the Garden of Eden and commanded to stay in that part of the land and not partake of the law of consecration with the rest of the posterity of Adam. And Adam and his people did not support Cain and his posterity according to the laws which were established among them. Nevertheless, they suffered that they should live in the borders of their lands as long as they did not come in among them. But the descendants of Benelli supported Cain and his people, and was promised by way of the secret covenants, secret societies that they had made with him. And a way of commerce and trade was opened up between them. We just read earlier that these quote-unquote Israelis controlled commerce at that time too. And who was Esau Edom? The Europeans that also came from the east. And the way of commerce and trade was opened between them that greatly benefited them both. And the posterity of Cain grew and became numerous upon the land. But they could not come unto the children of Adam and partake of their sustenance, which sustenance was provided for them by the laws that Adam had established, according to the laws of Yahweh or Yahweh. Sealed portion, chapter 35 and 128. It's in 3 different locations: the Book of Mormon, the sealed portion, and Isaiah. 3 witnesses, same statement. Let me go here first. 2 Nephi 27 and 3. And all the nations that fight against Zion and that distress her shall be as a dream of night vision. Yeah. It shall be unto them as unto a hungry man that was dreaming. And behold, he eat it, but he awaketh, and his soul is empty. Or like a thirsty man which dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he awaketh, and behold, he is faint. And his soul has appetite, yet even so shall the multitude of all the nations that fight against Mount Zion. Isaiah 29, 7 and 8. And the multitude of all of the nations that fight against Ariel, even all that fight against her and her munition, and the distresser shall be as a dream of a night vision. It shall even be as when a hungry man dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he awaketh, and his soul is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he awaketh, and behold, he is faint, and his soul has appetite. So shall the multitude of all the nations that fight against Zion or Mount Zion. We found out that the document I found the other day on the internet, that's who they say they're the white European race. Esau. First Nephi 22 and 14. And every nation which shall war against you, O house of Israel, shall be turned one against another. And they shall fall into the pit which they dig to ensnare the people of Yahweh. and all that fight against Zion shall be destroyed. And that great whore, the sealed portion calls that the European Empire, who has perverted the right ways of Yahweh Shai, yeah, that great and abominable church, shall tumble to the dust, and great shall be the fall of it. He said, but Israel won't get divine protection. For behold, all of you that do with iniquity, stay yourselves and wonder, for you shall cry out. And cry, yeah, you shall be drunken, but not with wine. You shall stagger, but not with strong drink. Revelation 17, 1-6. And there came one of the seven angels who had the seven vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon the many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the habitations of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Mount Seir. Lamentations 4:21-22. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth on the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto you. You shall be drunken, and shall make yourself naked. The punishment of your iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry you away into captivity. He will visit your iniquities, O daughter of Edom. He will discover your sins. Revelation 17, 1-6. And there came one of the seven angels who had the seven vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon the many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her wrath, been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away into the spirit, into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon the scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Who did he say that was? See portion chapter 65:2. Who persecuted the true saints of God, the Christian church and the Romans, Japheth's family, the Europeans from the Isles of the Gentiles, 10:1-5. Japheth, Chittim, the Romans, Ashkenaz. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh Shai. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. 2 Nephi 8:21. Therefore, hear now this, you afflicted and drunken, and not with wine. For behold, this is the second Nephi 27:5. For behold, Yahweh Shai has poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep. For behold, you have closed your eyes and you have rejected the prophets. And your rulers and the seers has he covered because of your iniquity. He's talking to Israel too. And it shall come to pass that Yahweh Shai, the highest, shall bring forth unto you the words of a book, and they shall be the words of them which have slumbered. And behold, the book shall be sealed, and in the book shall be a revelation from God from the beginning of the world to the ending thereof. That's the sealed portion. The book shall remember. Wherefore, because of the things which are sealed up, the things which are sealed shall not be delivered in the days of the wickedness and abominations of the people. Therefore, the book shall be kept from them. But the book shall be delivered unto a man, and he shall deliver the words of the book, which are the words of those who have slumbered in the dust, and he shall deliver these unto another. But the words which are sealed shall be delivered, neither shall he deliver the book, for the book shall be sealed by the power of the highest. And the revelation which was sealed shall be kept in the book until the own due time of Yahweh Shai, that they may come forth, for behold, they reveal all things from the foundation of the world unto the end thereof. And the day cometh that the words of the book which were sealed shall be read upon the housetops, and they shall be read by the power of the Messiah. And all things shall be revealed unto the children of men, which ever have been among the children of men, which ever will be, even unto the end of the earth. Trying to find the scripture I'm looking for, though. We'll start at verse 2. Verse 31. 2 Nephi 27 and 31. For surely as Yahweh Shai liveth, they shall see that the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and that watch for iniquity are cut off. And all that watch for iniquity are cut off. And they that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turneth aside the just for a thing of naught. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Shai, who redeemed Abraham. Why did he redeem Abraham? Concerning the house of Jacob. What about it? The house of Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. Talking about the restoration of Israel, you're going to know it because Israel's face ain't going to never be pale. He going to never be a European. That's how you can tell. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Shai, who redeemed. How am I doing it according to the precepts? Therefore, thus says Yahweh Shai, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob should not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. That's found in the Book of Mormon concerning the restoration of Israel. That's how you're going to know how Israel is restored. And then go to Isaiah 29 and 22. Therefore, thus says the Lord, who redeemed Abraham. Why? Concerning the house of Jacob. What about the house of Jacob? Everybody in Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. The house of Jacob ain't nobody pale face. Let's go to Etymology Online Dictionary. The house of Jacob is a coat of many copper-colored people called Negroes. Pale, That's why I gave you that's why I broke it down here. The Aboriginal indigenous people were considered Negroes. That's why in this book he tells you that Adam's children, righteous children, were all Negroes, quote unquote, called indigenous in America. So I'm not just making stuff up. Pale, the description of pale, early 14th century, of human skin or complexion, of a whitish appearance, bloodless, pallid, pale, light colored. Pale, pallid, wan, colorless. Jacob should not now be pale, and Jacob should not now grow pale. Jacob was never pale. From mid 14th century, of colors, lacking chromatic intensity, approaching white. Pale face, 14th century. Suppose translating a typical North American Negro, because you said Indian, word for European, is attested from 1822 in American English. 1 Watertarian, page 77. The American Negro or Indian or Black Moor or Mongolian Tartarian, see the Moors belong in Africa. The American Negroes, who they call Mexicans, are from America. They're both indigenous, but one is indigenous to Africa, one is indigenous to America. Page 78. There are many sources the Old Testament takes place in the Americas. Mexico is the original land of the American Negro, who is the Olmec, Aztec, Toltec, etc. In North America, he is the Algonquin, Choctaw, Washita, Pequot, Wampa, Lineal, Nape, Equirca, Arequis, etc. These are called the Mexicans, the original Mexicans. Going down to the bottom, it says the NWO tells the story backwards. The Negro is the Indian or copper-colored indigenous people of the Americas, who is actually a redskin. Many think that black people are black, yet there are many shades of copper, which is the color of the earth, coat of many colors. If you look in the old dictionaries, you will see that nigger and Indian were synonymous, and that colored is simply short for copper colored. That's why they were really calling the Messiah's disciples Indians in his day. Nigger. Paleface, suppose translating the typical North American Indian word for European, is attested from 1822 in American English. See, I'm just reading information to you. Information hurting your feelings? That you can't deny, you can't confound? Because you acting like I made it up or something. Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, and Barnabas and Simeon that was called Nigger, and Lucius and of Cyrene and Manaen, which had brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. If you look at old dictionaries, page 78, one word Tertarian, you will see that nigger and Indian were synonymous or synonyms, and that colored is simply short for copper colored. Why do you think they keep changing our titles from India to Negro to colored to African American to Black Moor? Negro is the most copied man on the earth. See, Black Moor is another name they changed to. They ain't what they started calling you that though. They didn't start calling you that. Because the Moor is synonymous with Africa. See, when you start talking about the Moors, the Islamic people that was over here, watch they're not gonna mention Choctaw, because the Choctaw is the Israelite. These other tribes that they're mentioning, they're considered Islam. And they're the ones that came from the east. A closer analysis of the names of native tribes would immediately reveal their Arabic etymology ancestry. And Nazi, Apache, Arawak, Araucana, Chavin, Cherokee, Cree, Hoakam, Hoopa, Hopi, Maka, Mohican, Mohawk, Nazca, Zulu, and Zuni are only a few. Islam was everywhere in the Americas. So that's where the Barwaya and them get that from. But it shows you that the Choctaw were the Israelites, the one they called the Mexican nation. But they were also Negroes in the beginning before they became whited out, as she said. Page 1 of One World Tertarian, they became paleface. The fake history has been called the ancient architectures as Moorish revival. They said that's fake history. Or Moorish gay. And Islamic, they say Islamic is fake history. Now, don't get mad at me. I'm just reading it to you. This is page. This is by James W. Lee. Page 1, introduction. The fake history has been called the ancient architecture as Moorish revival or Morisque and Islamic, and also colonial, medieval, neoclassical, Baroque, Romanesque, Gothic, Buddhist arcs, eclectic, Tudor, Renaissance. You know they whited out on everything in Renaissance period. Palladian, Richardsonian, Romanesque, school of Chicago School or Victorian. That's why I say you study yourself approved. Page 32 of the same book. It says the Cherokee were the real Romans. See, they started out dark skinned. But they didn't mention nothing about Cherokee being nothing about the Mexican people of the Americas. They called them Islamic. Everybody come from the East, they called Moors. The Cherokee were the real Romans, and they built all of the Greco-Roman architecture and the Cherokee Gothic architecture in the Americas. So I read another place that the Choctaw were the ones who built the mounds, though. They built the foundational parts of America from the land. Watch this. Page 31. The M-O-O-R comes from the Orient, the Far East. Now, who was given the lands to the East that Adam wasn't allowed to come? To the Americas. I'm just reading information to you. Just reading information. That's all I'm doing. Now you can tell when they threw this in there, he already told you the Moors and all that stuff, that was false information, or fake information. Watch what it said on page 73. The first natives of America, black Moors. Author and historian Chancellor Williams said the original Moors, M-O-O-Rs, because he said the M-U-Rs can be referred to the original Americans. But the M-O-O-Rs, like the original Egyptians, we just read who the Egyptians were. That was the house of Ham. So she's telling the truth about that. But the original Americans, see, she didn't tell you about the difference between us. I don't know if she's being deceptive or she didn't know the information. I don't know. But she's trying to say everybody came from Africa. That's not the truth. The original Americans were, she said, as I said in this book, the Choctaws, etc. That they called the Mexican nation, who were originally Negro, the Aboriginal indigenous people. When I say her, I'm speaking of the Barya. The first natives of America, the black Moors. Author and historian Chancellor Williams said, the original Moors, M-O-O-Rs, like the original Egyptians, and that's talking about the house of Ham, were black Africans. The 16th century English playwright William Shakespeare used the word Moor, M-O-O-R, as a synonym for African. His contemporary Christopher Marlowe also used African and Moor interchangeably. See, the Moors are not Americans. They're Africans. They're Aboriginal, but not from here. They're from the house of Cain, the house of Ham. His contemporary Christopher Marlowe also used African and Moor interchangeably. Black soldiers, specifically identified as Moors. So that's how they came over here, because they was identified as Moors. They were black soldiers and were actively recruited by Rome and served in Britain, France, Switzerland, Australia, Hungary, Poland, and Romania. So they brought them over here to enslave the true American Aborigines. And then once they got here, they intermingled, and then they became, because they were dark skinned too. And so then when Rome went in and sabotaged them, and then threw them into the bunch, they just said all of us is the same. But they're the ones that really brought them over here to enslave us, but they ended up getting enslaved too. We're not the same people. One is Africans and one is Americans. Marlowe also used African and Moor interchangeably. Black soldiers, specifically identified as Moors, were actively recruited by Rome and served in Britain, France, Switzerland, Australia, Hungary, Poland, and Romania. Saint Maurice, patron saint of medieval Europe, was only one of the many black soldiers and officers under the employ of the Roman Empire. Trying to see if there's anything else I need to bring out. Well, we're going to go back. Isaiah 29 and 22. Therefore, thus says the Lord, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. The Moors are not from the house of Jacob. They are a dark-skinned people, though, but they're from Ham. And allegedly, the Watchmen and the Boer are too, because they keep on promoting going back to Africa. And if they come from Africa, they're not Israelites, they're Hamites. Because the Israelites that are in Africa, they didn't come from Africa, they came from America and was taken to Africa. That's why they have the settlement, the place over there where it's called Negro land, or Judah. Because it was taken from America and put over there, and they put a whole region around them for slaves called Negro land. They didn't start there, though. Give you another reference to why the Romans called them that. Just give you information to check for yourself. Don't get mad, study. Or if you get mad, let your anger lead you to studying. This is a American English Dictionary by Noah Webster for definition of what a Moor is. Moor, noun, dark, obscure, a native. They are a native of northern coast of Africa, called by the Romans. And they said the original Romans were Cherokee. A native of northern coast of Africa, called by the Romans from the color of the people, Mauritania, the country of a dark complexion people. The same country is now called Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, etc. And they were also the ones that had to get permission from the sultans, just like the Jews, the Israelis that I read about, who was Esau Edom. That's why I remember they stuck it out of my head. That's all they talking about. They had to get permission from the sultan. See how they all together. That's why they brought them over here, because they got permission from the sultan to come over here and do what they did, allegedly. But it makes sense to me, because they are called by the Romans, by Japheth's family. Isaiah 29:22. Therefore, thus says the law, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob should not now be ashamed. Why you got to be ashamed? Because all this information coming out telling the truth about who we are. And the Most High did that on purpose. He said, "Now you ain't got to be ashamed no more. The truth is out." And not only the truth is out, neither shall his face now wax pale. And then we do a definition of it through the etymology of the word. It said Jacob's face ain't never been pale, nor of it shall ever be pale. And then Webster says this. All these different things. I don't know how people. I'm not calling you stupid, man, because I was very stupid and ignorant. So I'll be one calling the kettle black if I say something like that. But what I'm trying to say is, you got to be stupid if you think a family can change to be somebody else. Is your family somebody else? Through your parents? Don't y'all look alike? If y'all came from your parents? But all of a sudden, when it comes to quote unquote religion, then anything's possible. Noah Webster, race. The lineage of a family or continued series of descendants from a parent who is called the stock, Adam. A race is a series of descendants indefinitely. It don't never change. Let's see what indefinitely means. He said a race is descent. It comes from the stock that it's indefinitely. Look at the word indefinitely. This is the action word of indefinitely. Early 15th century without settled limitation, boundless. Perpetuate. Cause to endure or to continue indefinitely, preserved from extinction to oblivion. Back to formation for perpetuation, or else from Latin perpetuus past particle, to make perpetual. Permanent. Enduring, unchanging, unchanged, lasting, or unintended to last indefinitely. Race. The lineage of a family or continued series of descendants from a parent who is called the stock. Jacob. If Jacob is a Negro, all his children are Negroes. That's the stock. I don't know how you can get mad at that. I'm only giving you the truth based on knowledge that I'm researching right before your eyes. How can you be angry at that? Race, the lineage of a family or continued series of descendants from a parent is called the stock. A race is the series of descendants indefinitely. Thus, all mankind are called the race of Adam. The Israelites are of the race of Abraham and Jacob. Thus, we speak of a race of kings, a race of Clovis or Charlemagne, a race of nobles. And then because Webster is a European, he went by the old European thing. He said, for example, a race of Alban fathers come. We're not Alban. And then I'm gonna end on this note right here because not on this note, but on this scripture, and then I'm gonna read something else to you again. Let me read it to you. Read it to you again. This is right here back again to this book. Page 51. Dark-skinned people of the Americas. In any case, between the years of 1492, talking about Christopher Columbus time, and 1501, at least 3,000 Native Americans were known to be shipped to Europe from America. They were shipped to Europe from America. They didn't come from Europe to America. They were shipped from America to Europe. And then when they came back to America, it ain't like they came from America. It was just a rotation of how they were shipping slaves. With the likely total being possible double that. Most were sent to the Civil area, where they seemed to show up in the slave market as Negroes. What most people don't realize is Negro was a terminology that was used to describe the indigenous people of the Americas. I don't know what else I got to say. Looking for something real fast. This book right here called The Negro Question Part 2. It's a place in here where it's trying to tell you that during this time of transporting quote-unquote Negroes from Europe to America, talking about the Aboriginals, they was really kidnapping the royalty of Judah and sending them to America as slaves. That's why the part about this, you consider for that part in the sealed portion, where it says that these other people were sent here, and some people were trying to say they were Europeans, but that wasn't. That was the royal house of Judah that they were sending that had rulership over in Europe. Yeah, right here. Consider this, page 96, this page right here. Page 96 through 97. The European Black Plague, fact or fiction? What is the real truth about the disappearance of all these Black Europeans? Did they die from the result of the so-called Black Plague, or was the black population of the Holy Roman German Empire the Black Plague? These are some statistics from European wars. France, 100-Year War, 1337 to 1453. At the end of the 100-Year War, 50% of the France's black population was dead. They said that's the Black Plague, getting rid of the population of black people, quote unquote. Germany, 30-Year War. Now do your own research. I'm just reading something to you out the book. 1618 to 1648, Black Holy Roman German Empire versus England, France, now controlled by white Europeans, Russia, Dutch, Sweden, Transylvania, and Hesse-Palatinate. When the war ended, 40% of the black German population was killed, the Black Plague. Britain Civil War, 1642 to 1651. Black Britons fought against the white Britons, and 4% of the Briton population died. The Scottish population decreased by 6%, and the Black Irish population decreased by 41%. It appears that the so-called Black Plague in Europe was nothing but a race war in which the white Europeans finally evicted the black ruling class from the European continent. That's what the Most High said. I made a video about it. So don't marry the 7 great nations greater than you. Why? Because they got guns and stuff. And they got an agenda too. But we got Negroes who's going to marry all the white women they can because they said now they made it. The Most High said, you fools, you don't even know if you weakened yourself. You weaken yourself, you don't even know it. Because them, everything they do is about war and about scheme, and everything they do is plotting to get rid of you. But you think you think that they trying to bring you in to be part of them to make you happy like they are with them, but you weakening yourself because you allowing them to multiply. And you not multiplying. Although you are multiplying, but still. That's why I said you weaken yourself and you don't even know it. Why is that? Because the Most High is a man of war too. He's always strategizing in our favor, but he said you weakening yourself and you don't even know it. The images don't lie. These black kings, popes, and knights existed, and they were wise to keep portraits of themselves. Else we would have never known. To solidify my argument, I have in my possession a letter written by none other than Benjamin Franklin himself concerning the existence of the black German European. America is a land of opportunity. Author Benjamin Franklin, year 1751. Subject, why increase the sons of Africa in America? So right here, he's telling you that these were Moors. Because I'm looking at it with new eyes now based on information. He said, why increase the sons of Africa? Because then we was all the same. But we are not the same because they're the ones that brought them over. But once they brought them over, then they turned on the Moors. But the Moors brought them over thinking that they was going to be able to rule with them. But once they got what they wanted, then they did dumb diversions and all y'all black people got to go. But because of the Most High loves us, Israel, he made them put an end to dumb diversions for his name's sake, based on his word. Because he said we got to reign. So now that I know this information, it makes a little more sense to me. He said these were the Moors, right? He said America is a land of opportunity. Benjamin Franklin, year 1751. Why increase the sons of Africa in America? America as a land of opportunity. Why should Palatine Boers, Germans, be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their language and manners to exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens, who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us, instead of our anglifying them, and we will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion? There go another book talking about complexions and skin color, so it does matter to them. So it matters to us because it matters to them. And it matters to the Most High because he know they're going to be lying. That's why he said, you should never, one way you're going to know yourself because you don't never look like them. Same thing they say. And we'll never adopt our language or our complexion. Hey, Benjamin Franklin, can you translate what you said into modern English? In English, Benjamin is telling you that Germans were a black race of people. The Books of Remembrance tells everybody was a quote-unquote copper-colored race of people. Both good and wicked in the beginning, during the times of Adam on down until somebody grew pale. Swarthy European slang equals black. Tiny European slang equals black. Which leads me to add one remark that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tiny. Asia chiefly tiny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. So this book is telling you all Americans are copper colored, except for those who came later, the Europeans. Read it again. Which leads me to add to one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tiny. Asia, chiefly tiny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, French, Italians, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. The Saxons only accepted who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. Do your own research. I'm just reading books to you. I could wish their numbers were increased by clearly America of woods. I could wish their numbers were increased. And while we are, as I may call it, scoring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of superior beings, darkens his people. So they're saying that the white people are superior beings, quote unquote. Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? If it's saying America is already copper colored people, which means now we're the people who's already here. Now he's talking about why increase the sons of Africa by bringing them to America. He is talking about the black Europeans coming to America. Well, we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tanies. See, they were talking about dumb diversity right there. They was throwing everybody into the bunch, whether you was an American or an African. If you was here, you was still black and you was the enemy. But they suckered the Moors into letting them come over, bringing them over here. But perhaps I'm partial. They probably promised the Moors this land too. That's why the Moors are probably talking about this our land, even though they wasn't here first. But when they got over here, they suckered them. Said, nah, Nick, get on there with the rest of them. where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red. Or perhaps I'm partial to the complexion of my country. For such kind of partialities is natural to mankind. Benjamin Franklin is asking, why should the blacks of Holy Roman German Empire be admitted into the 13 colonies? See, the Moors were a part of them that they kicked to the curb. They weren't even considering us. That was already here. Because them and the Moors, in their mind, they conquered us and took it. That's why this chapter 79, the portion says that their doctrine, their belief is the American Israelites and all of the dark colored people. So he was telling you right there, the Israelites and the Moors. I praise the Most High for information and knowledge according to his word. And I thank him even more that he allowed me and gave me a responsibility, which is an honor, to rightly divide the word of truth and to bring it to you. Once again, I'm not saying I can't speak for other people. I can only speak for me. But I know I'm not the only one that's doing this work. But when I make statements like that, I don't mean just me. But when I bring my information forth, or the information that I'm allowed to receive to bring forth, I can only say I'm bringing it forth because ain't nobody bringing it forth but me. Although there are others out there bringing forth truth, but I'm not with them. I'm with them in the spirit because it's truth. But at this particular time, this truth is coming out of my mouth. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. When I make statements like that, I'm not trying to say I'm greater than nobody else. I'm just saying I'm the one bringing it out right now before you on this video. That's what I mean by that. And when I share other people's information, I tell them, just like I tell you on what you watching me, study to show yourself approved before the Most High. But I only trust the information that I bring out because I know the work I put in to bring it forth, based on what is true, line on line, precept on precept. But I do share other people's information on my forums, like Facebook and Twitter and different things like that. But I can't vouch that it's all true what these people are saying. If some of the things are true, that's why I share it. But I still tell you to study to show yourself approved. Because I know for a fact a lot of the things some people that I share don't be all true. But it's enough truth information in there to get some information that is true that's worth your while. But I still tell you to study to show yourself approved. And don't take it for as truth because somebody said it. You got to study yourself. So I appreciate anybody and everyone that's listening to me at this time to study to show yourself approved. And I'm telling you, if it makes you angry, do something about it, meaning study to see if what I'm saying is true. And I'm giving it to you out of the books that I have. They're saying the same things. The Most High said, got to be line up on line, precept on precept. So if it's all saying the same thing, got to be some truth to it, if not the truth. And the book already told you that the Europeans have changed things for their favor. That's not saying anything bad about nobody. That's just what they did. You know what they're doing. That's how they get down. But the Most High has brought forth the truth that can put an end to the lies. That's what he's doing. That's his work. That's why it's so effective. He's causing this to happen. He's causing them to bring truth to the story by necessity, their powers. That's the Most High is doing it. So can't nobody stop it. He's the one doing it. Because it's this time, his time, the time of the Gentile is over. That's why things are happening the way they're happening in the world. The Most High is causing that to happen. The kingdom has been given back to the king's children. But it's still a process. It began with the word. And now it's manifesting into the material world. That's what's going on. But it first starts with the word. And then it went on to their word by their confessing the truth of the Most High's word by necessity. It's over now. Because both sides have confessed the truth through the word. Now it's going to manifest in the physical. That's what's happening. So until next time, all praises be unto you. Once again, this wasn't the message I intended bringing, but I ended up bringing it, so apparently it was Most High's will. So until next time, shalom to those who deserve shalom.